All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here are going to be breaking down the Texas A&M spring preview. Spring practice got underway a couple weeks ago for the Aggies. We're here to break things down before their spring game here in a couple weeks. I don't know about you, Nick, but at first glance, this roster is shaping up to be special. Not really this year so much, but in 2023, I'm really feeling like this might be my national title favorite.
Yeah, this Texas A&M team beat Nick Saban in Alabama in the fall last year, and they're really building on that. They have a strong program in College Station. I think with the recruiting classes they're bringing in and sort of how they're fostering this culture down there, I think this team could be real contenders in the next couple of years in the SEC West.
Yeah, this is a great roster. We're here to break down every single positional group, kicking things off with quarterback. It's kind of a three-way battle for quarterback, but not really. Haynes King got hurt early on the year, second game of the season. He only saw limited action last year. Had the 3 interceptions in his lone start against Kent State. He's a dual-threat guy, though. He can make plays with his legs. They landed a top 5-star recruit, though, in Connor Wigman. But I think that Max Johnson, the LSU transfer, is honestly going to be the runaway favorite for this job.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Hayes King, like you said, had that injury. Before the injury, there were a lot of people were very high on him in College Station. I like the pickup of Connor Wigman. I think he's a very strong 5-star recruit out of high school. But you look at Max Johnson, who had a decent year at times with the LSU Tigers. He transferred into the program, 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 2,815 yards. So I think Max Johnson has to be the favorite at this point for this Texas A&M team. He brings some experience to the program. Played some time, like I said, at LSU. He was a sophomore transfer. But it could go either way with these 3 players, depending on who plays the best in spring practice. It really is a toss-up, which is very interesting. You don't see a lot of quarterback rooms in college have these sort of 3-way toss-up this late into the spring. And I think this is a real opportunity for someone to kind of step up and be the guy in practice. A couple sites have Hayes King as the favorite. I agree with you. I think Max Johnson has to be the favorite for me at this time, just due to that experience last year at LSU and looked good at times for the Tigers. But this is a really interesting quarterback room, and it can go either way.
I don't think that Wigman's going to play much this year as a 5-star true freshman coming in. They don't need him to really play that much. I think they got 2 solid options here. But Johnson, I like him to be the starter. He tends to make some poor decisions, but he's kind of a gamer. He's very decisive with his reads as a passer. As a runner. I don't know how many running yards he had. I don't think he had many at all. He might have even been in the negative, but he makes plays with his legs. He's also decisive in that category. One of the poor plays he made that really stood out against UCLA in week 1. He's under pressure and he just launches the ball behind his back. That's not great. Of course, that was early in the season. He's definitely worked on that. Only 6 interceptions. The decision making did not plague him throughout the year. I think he's got a really nice deep ball, though. I think the accuracy as well with pressure in his face. Jimbo Fisher is a very nice player to work with in Max Johnson. I like some of the qualities he has. I think this could potentially be a big year for him. He's got a nice little supporting cast to work with. There's times where he holds the ball too much, but there's just some negatives in his game that I think Jimbo Fisher will work out. I think Johnson will be the starter here, and I think he'll have a pretty successful season.
Yeah, Max Johnson had a rushing touchdown for LSU last year. He did end up with a negative rushing yards, but he did have that encounter. That does include some of the sacks he took. He had a decent year on the ground in 2020, picking up 120 yards on 54 attempts. So I think Jimbo Fisher can really work with this quarterback here and kind of develop him and sort of put him into the offense what he wants to play here. I think Max Johnson will be a solid pick up in the portal, and I really think this could be a good start for him and a kind of restart in College Station.
Moving to probably my favorite positional group on this offense, the running back and group and the offensive line. ESPN's Quint Kisnick joined the podcast back in 2020, late in the year before the Orange Bowl, and we were talking about A&M, and I pointed out they didn't have, because we were talking about if they deserved to make the playoffs or not, and I was like, their winning margin is not very great. And he made a great point that, they're not built to win by 40-plus points. This is a team that likes to ground and pound. They like to grind down opponents, escape with, 2 or 3 possession victories, 21 points or less, nothing too major. And that's a great point. And I think they're going to look to get back to that this season. Devon Achane, he's a Heisman sleeper in my eyes. 910 of his 1,200 career yards came last year. 9 of his 13 touchdowns on the career as well. Phenomenal playmaker. 7 yards per carry last season. He's had that average for his first 2 years. Great speed. An elusive runner, too. You've seen that run in the Orange Bowl he had against North Carolina his freshman year. He was like a 65-plus yarder. He shook a defender or two, and he couldn't catch him. Devon Achane, I love what he brings to the table. He even had a kickoff return against Alabama last year. I love Devon Achane. I'd see him as a Heisman sleeper. Do you concur?
Yeah, so I think Achane will carry the load here for Texas A&M. I really like him as a player. He also can catch the ball, too. He had 24 receptions, good for 260 yards last season, and a receiving touchdown out of the backfield. I think he's going to be a very talented running back for this Texas A&M team. He's going to carry the bulk of the load, like you said. had 910 yards last season on the ground. I expect Jimbo Fisher to run the ball a decent amount this year, especially with some of the potential backups as well that could be in this running back room we're going to talk about in a second. Chain is a clear favorite to lead this running back core, and like you said, Heisman sleeper definitely is a real possibility. I think he has a real opportunity here to kind of pick up where he left off last season, dominate on the ground, and maybe even get involved in the special teams. Like you said, he had that kickoff return for a touchdown against Alabama. Maybe we see him go back into the kickoff return game this year. I don't know if they will do that or not, but I think he's a very talented running back and can really kind of lead the ground game for this Texas A&M Aggies team, and I really like what I see out of him. Like you said, strong Orange Bowl. Very impressed by him in general. Very well-rounded back, and I think this is a great sort of leading back for this Texas A&M team.
L.J. Johnson, his backup, he's going to assume a change the role from recent years. Isaiah Spiller's gone, so Devon, he's going to assume the lead duties. I don't know how strong the 1-2 punch will be. I think Devon's certainly going to get a great bulk of the carries. L.J. Johnson, though, he fits terrific. He's a one-cut, explosive runner, downhill guy, loves contact, 5'10", 205. I think he's going to make a pretty solid backup here. Amari Daniels, I think, well, him and Johnson, they're going to battle for the number 2 spot. I think Johnson's certainly going to get it. They're both redshirt freshmen, though. It's not the deepest of backfields, but I'd say they got enough potential to have a very respectable 1-2 punch to average about 200 yards per game this season.
Yeah, I think Johnson is the clear number 2 running back in this room. I like his size, like you said, and I think there's a real opportunity that he can get some good carries, maybe on third down, and kind of hold that backup role as Unchained ascends to the number 1 back. I'm very interested to see how he plays this year and see how much usage he gets.
I really don't care who's the running back. I could be the running back. They're going to do damage behind this offensive line. This is pretty nasty. Bryce Foster at center, Ruben Feathery, 6'8", 320 pounds. He's probably going to move the left tackle this year. They were both all SEC freshmen a season ago. The size, it's on the screen for the people watching, it's pretty ridiculous. I love what they bring to the table, all 5 starters, high upside. What's your first take on this offensive line?
So I like Feathery, like you said, coming off a strong freshman season. Like you said, you're going to throw him outside the left tackle. I think that's where he really fits. He's going to be very strong there. But I also like the backup they have at left tackle, junior Blake Trainer. I'm very interested to see if he gets any game time. I also like the center, like you said, Bryce Foster, very strong freshman season, coming back for his sophomore season. It's only going to get better as he continues to play and get more reps. I really like how he's going to hold down the center position. In general, like you said, the 5 starters on this offensive line are really strong. I look at Layden Robinson as well, very strong junior. I think he has a lot of experience as well, and I think this offensive line is going to be very strong, and you can expect a lot of strong running game from Texas A&M this year, as they're going to have that offensive line protect them and really give them those nice holes and give opportunities for the running backs to break free and make some nice plays.
Layden Robinson, 6'4", 320, very powerful, like you said. Jimbo Fisher likes him. He also likes, Ike Ugambayi. This guy is very athletic, nice explosion for his size, and athleticism for that size as well is pretty nice. I think Trey Zunn as well. He's probably going to be the starter at right tackle. He's exactly what they want, though. A guy who has a high motor, can drive guys back in the run game, I think, despite the youthfulness kind of on this offensive line. In terms of class, they're pretty youthful, but again, guys like Ruben and Bryce, they started last year, all year long. That's why I'm loving this unit potentially for 2023, because this offensive line, they're probably going to get all 5 starters back next year. Remember, they coming into the year, they replaced 4 of them, I'm pretty sure. Kenyon Green was the only returner. Jameer Johnson, he was a veteran. Those 2 are gone on the left side. They don't have to replace much. The Layden Robinson, Ruben Feathery are the 2 replacements. So this line is gold. I think this is probably going to be one of the nation's best, even despite the kind of inexperience compared to some other teams across the FBS. Love this group.
Yeah, I look at the right tackle as my only question mark, because, like you said, Zunn is probably the probable starter as a redshirt freshman, but I think there could be some competition there. They might actually move Blake Trainer out there to the right side as well, or maybe PJ Williams, a freshman coming in, a very high recruit. There's definitely a lot of questions on that, but like you said, this is such a strong offensive line, and even if they do have questions on the right tackle, the other 4 positions are just so strong that this offensive line is going to lead the way in FBS for sure.
Now, this wide receiver group, I'm kind of iffy about it. I don't know really how to feel. You can give me your take here in a second, but Anaya Smith coming back, that's a great pickup. He is a good athlete, change of directions, top-notch, nice route runner, 1,300 yards over the last 3 seasons. Not great production, but he's been very reliable for them the last 2 seasons. Caleb Chapman, he's got good size at 6'5", 200. Hasn't played much the last 2 years, but remember that upset against Florida, it was 2 years back. He balled out against them. Nice hands for the size. His hands complement his size very well. Chase Laney's another one of those guys who only played 7 games last year, 400-plus yards in 2020. Him and Chapman are certainly going to get back into the rotation. How do you feel about that 3-man group I just named?
So I look at it without Smith, this wide receiving core would be significantly weaker, and I'd be really concerned. But bringing Smith back as a senior, a lot of experience, I think that is a really strong sort of re-addition to the team. I like Chapman a lot. I think Chapman has real big play potential here. I think he's a real exciting wide receiver. I like to see him get the ball a lot. I am certainly concerned with the wide receiving core. We looked at some teams recently, especially Ohio State, Alabama, that have significantly better wide receiving cores, in my opinion. So that is a bit of a question mark, and we don't really know who's going to be throwing the ball yet, if it is going to be Johnson or not. I'm a little concerned with this. I think that's the one weak spot on this offense. We've had a lot to say, a lot of praise for the offense so far, but I do have questions about the wide receiver, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that sort of impact player. I like Smith coming back. I think Smith will have a good year. He should get the ball a lot. But in general, I'm a little concerned. I guess we'll have to see how it looks through the first couple of games and then make an opinion on that for sure.
I mean, they've recruited the position very well. Chris Marshall, Evan Stewart, two incoming 5-star recruits. But when you're a true freshman in college football, I'm always iffy on you. That's the perfect perspective to have usually on incoming guys. How much will they play? What role will they play? How will they adjust? So I'm not going to expect them to jump into the rotation right away. Desmond Demas, he's having some off-the-field issues, so we don't know what his status is going to be. He would certainly be a great addition with his athleticism. Receiver, like you said, it's kind of iffy. Neil Keith Brown might even get involved, but there's not a lot of production outside of Smith. Not a lot of experience really either outside of Lane and Chapman. You like a tight end though. I love this group. They're going to be fine at tight end. I think. Baylor Cupp. This might be a name you heard a while ago. He's the top tight end in the recruit class of 2019. He's battled injuries. Has 0 receptions to his name, but he's clearly talented. Jake Johnson, he's also the top-ranked tight end this year's class. Donovan Green, number 4 ranked in the class of 2022. So they're loaded at tight end. But again, the youthful inexperience at pass catcher might be this unit's biggest downfall.
Yeah, you look at it, Jimbo seems to be recruiting those tight ends very well. Jake Johnson, the brother of Max Johnson, very interesting dynamic there. Like you said, Cupp, it's his 4th year on campus, former 5-star prospect, has had a tough time with injuries, and I really feel bad for him about that. But if he can get it together this year and get some significant playing time, he'll be the lead target for Max Johnson if he's the quarterback. I like Baylor Cupp a lot, very physical tight end. And with that experience, 4 years on campus, it's hard to replace that sort of experience. Even if he hasn't been playing much, he's been around the program, knows the system. I think this is a very solid tight end core, and I think they will be getting a lot of touches and potentially be involved in the game.
Overall, this offense, I think they have a pretty high ceiling. The pass catchers, though, might be the make or break for how high their ceiling truly is. Overall, though, I like this offense. I think it's setting up not just for 2022, like I alluded to earlier, 2023. I really like what they have from a potential standpoint in the future. This offense, though, will certainly compete in the SEC. We move to the defense. DJ Durkin comes over from Ole Miss. He's going to inherit this 4-2-5 left by Mike Elko, who went to Duke. The defensive line, they replace everybody. That wrecking crew, they lose 5 guys in that front 7, 4 of them on the defensive line. They've recruited this position better than anybody. But again, true freshmen, it's hard to assume what kind of roles or impact they'll have this year. Outside of Shamar Turner, I'm kind of a little iffy on this unit, at least early on in the season.
Yeah, I also agree with that as well. I look at this, they're a very youthful roster. The projected lineup I'm looking at here is multiple redshirt freshmen and some true freshmen starting. I think that's a very concerning thing to see. Like you said, that defensive line class is probably the best in college football history, and it was very talented in that regard. But these guys just don't have any real experience outside of Turner. I look for Turner to be kind of the lead on this defensive line, slotting in a defensive tackle role. I look at Diggs as well. I think he has some experience as a sophomore. He might have some real opportunity here. But in general, this is a very weak defensive line. To be interesting to see what DJ Durkin can do with that. Durkin had a really good year at Ole Miss last year. That defense took a huge step forward in what was a massive question mark under Lane Kiffin. And now he comes over here to Texas A&M, kind of inherits this bit of a weak defensive line. It'll be interesting to see what he can do with that and kind of make these guys into a strong team, because that could be a huge question mark for this team.
Yeah, McKinley Jackson, 6'2", 325. He's out for the spring, so that's obviously not going to help anything. But Turner, though, former 5-star, I think he'll be an excellent inside pass rusher. He's one of 3 all-freshmen from last year. They're coming back on this defense, so they have a lot of talent. Khalil Diggs, though, like I said, he's up to 260 pounds. Let's see how he carries that weight. He's got a good first step, great raw athlete. We'll see, what Durkin and this coaching staff can do with him. He's a guy with plenty of upside, though. Overall, though, I'm not really sure where they're going to get this pass rush from. Also don't really know what they're going to get from a run-stopping standpoint, but long-term, they're going to be fine. They got 3 of the top 4 defensive line recruits, 4 of the top 10, and they might even get another one, Overton. He was supposed to be in next year's class. He reclassified. A&M is clearly in the hunt. At least I've heard he's in the hunt to go to the Aggies, so they're going to be fine in the long term. They're recruited very on an elite level at this position, but short term, I think it might be a little bumpy. Looking at who the two will be in this 4-2, I think they're going to be just fine at linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper, he was another one of those guys who was all freshman last year. He's one of the top tacklers on this team, especially down the stretch. He's really good in coverage as well. I think this is a all-conference guy for at least a foreseeable future.
Cooper had a really strong second half of the season. He was really all freshman last year, very strong 2021 down the stretch. I look at Chris Russell, the senior, being the other linebacker. I have a lot of question marks with him. He has some experience, but I don't really know how strong he's going to be with this team. So I think Cooper's going to lead the line here. Very strong linebacker. Look to see a lot of plays out of him. I'm really impressed by him. Great end of the year. Really turned it around after some question marks at the start of the season. We should expect to see him take a step forward and establish that on that all freshman season last year. In general, I think the linebacking core will be very solid for this Texas A&M Aggies team.
Yeah, because, Andre White, him and Cooper, I think they're kind of penciled in as the starters right here in the middle of this defense. Hard hitter, very impressive as a run stopper. High ceiling for both of them. The coaching staff really likes what they have here at linebacker. So I think they're going to be pretty straight at this position. I think these guys are going to have to play larger roles, though, early on in the year due to this defensive line's inexperience. We'll see what happens, though. I'm very interested to see what kind of packages they roll out with these two linebackers. These guys are pretty versatile, I'd say. So overall, the ceiling for this front seven, very good. The defensive line, though, still a question mark. I'm not too worried about, though, because the same thing, Georgia's going through the same thing pretty much, so I'm not too worried about it. These guys will figure it out. The secondary, though, these guys, I think they're set to have a really big year. They got plenty of experience. They also got a good repertoire of playmaking, I think. They're going to, have 5 DBs back there. I'm not really sure who they're going to put at the slot, but Antonio Johnson is very good at that position. He was also a really good safety, so we'll see what he does here in this upcoming season. He was a very good run stopper. He's one of the top tacklers, as was Damani Richardson. He's coming back. I think he's a super senior at this point. He's a big-time leader in the secondary. I expect big things from this safety group.
Yeah, I like Richardson coming back, like you said, as a super senior, brings a ton of experience to this. And like you said, Antonio Johnson makes a lot of good plays, really strong in the tackling department. I like them a lot. That pairing at safety can be really strong for this five-back secondary. I'm really impressed by having those two guys come back, especially Richardson. That inexperience on the field as a super senior is just invaluable. Very talented player, and I'm very interested to see what he can do in this final season, most likely, at Texas A&M.
Yeah, because Leon O'Neal was one of their starting safeties last year. I'm pretty sure Johnson played most of his time with the slot. I could be wrong, but I believe that's where he spent most of his 2021 season. But yeah, he'll play that safety role, I think, to a T this year. I'm not too upset what they have at corner either. Tyreek Chappell, another one of those guys that was all freshman last year, 9 pass breakups. He had a pick. He had some struggles in the big games. I think it was against Alabama where he had his biggest issues. But guess what? Who didn't? He's a freshman. I thought he held up pretty well in those games against tougher opponents. And then Jalen Johnson at corner, I thought he was a pretty solid playmaker as well. These guys gained some pretty wealthy experience last year. They're going to continue to do so this year. Their DB coach as well. He's also one of the top in the country, I think. So I think this secondary overall, I really like what they bring to the table. What are your thoughts on this cornerback duo?
So I like Chappell a lot. Like you said, all freshman last year. He struggled a little bit against Alabama, but it's tough to play against Alabama as a freshman in that sort of very strong limelight moment. I was very impressed with him, especially down the stretch. I think he's going to be kind of the standout here as a sophomore. I'm very impressed to see what he can do. I like his play style. Very good with the flat pass breakups, like you said, almost double-digit pass breakups and an interception to boot. I'm very impressed by Chappell. I think he's going to take a huge step forward. We can see a very strong year out of him at cornerback.
Earlier in the season, I'm really interested to see how this nickel defense, when they roll it out, does against stopping the run, because I feel like they might need some extra help early in the year with this defensive line. Keep harping on the fact that I'm a little worried. Of course, I'm not too worried at the same time, but you never know what's going to happen early in the season with youth and experience. A&M, they were 17th in pass defense last year. Those numbers are kind of skewed, though, when you look at their game log, quality of opponent, because, Alabama, Mississippi State, LSU, they had no issues throwing it against these guys. So there's obviously plenty of work to do. I like what they have in place, though. I think the future is bright for this entire defense.
I agree. I think Eric Young is also an interesting wild card as well. We didn't touch on him, the senior coming back. He could have a real potential strong year as well.
They also recruited this part of the ball very well. So 2023, I'm really eyeing them to be a national title contender, but I don't see why they can't compete for the West this fall. And looking at their schedule, I feel the same way. Looking at the first month of the season, it's kind of interesting. They kick things off with Sam Houston State. They host Appalachian State. That's never easy. And then they host Miami. 2 interesting non-conference games that could potentially really boost their CFP resume come the end of November.
Yeah, I like the matchup with Miami at home. We don't really know what we're going to get out of Miami this year under a new coach. They could be a really interesting team, and playing in the third game of the season, they could have kind of got their act together through the first 2 games and then come out and have a really strong showing at Kyle Field. Then you look at the game, they play Alabama at Bryant-Denny. That's always going to be a tough matchup in October. It's going to be kind of a make or break game for them. Very interesting to see where it goes in there. I like the schedule overall. It's a classic SEC West schedule. It's going to be tough. The SEC West is such a gauntlet every year. There's going to be a lot of hard matchups for this Texas A&M team. I'm interested to see where it goes. They get Ole Miss at home this year. That should be an interesting matchup as well. I'm very interested to see how this goes. I think this is a very strong schedule as it is. They play Florida this year as well. We don't really know what Florida is. They're kind of in a transition under a new coach, but Florida is always a tough team to play. Should be interesting to see how it goes.
This 6-game stretch in the middle of the year, honestly, it might be very tough. They play Arkansas in Arlington, follow that up at Mississippi State, at Alabama, and get a bye week at South Carolina and Spencer Rattler. Then they'll play Jackson Dart and then Anthony Richardson. I mean, looking at that 4-game stretch right there from Bama to Florida, the quarterbacks you're playing, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a big challenge for this defense. I think they got a few good weeks to get things going. I mean, really for the whole year, you start things Tyler Van Dyke against Miami, KJ Jefferson. A lot of veteran quarterbacks, even at Mississippi State with Will Rogers, they're going to play some very good quarterbacks this year. I'm kind of concerned looking at the schedule. A&M, obviously, they're going to be a really good team, but this is not a cakewalk by any means. If they get to the playoffs, they're certainly going to have to earn it.
Yeah, I agree. This is, like I said, the SEC West is such a tough division. You look at that, playing Alabama, playing Ole Miss, playing Auburn, playing Florida. These are some tough teams. I'm very interested to see how it goes. I like sort of the balance of the home and away. I think that does help them out because Kyle Field is such a very strong atmosphere. There is a real serious home field advantage. I went to Kyle Field last year, absolutely blown away with how loud it gets in there. The stadium was shaking. Incredible atmosphere. So some of those tougher games at home will definitely help in that regard. But going to Bryant-Denny is never easy. Going to Jordan-Hare is never easy. Should be really interesting to see how this team plays this year.
Toughest game of the year, November 19th, they host UMass. So circle down your calendars.
The Minutemen, don't sleep on them.
Now that's going to wrap it. Nick, appreciate you joining me as always.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment your opinion on the schedule too, because I think it's a very interesting one. That's going to be it for today. See you guys next time.